All right, so we're going to walk through three things today that Pete alluded to in the slides. So first off, we're going to walk through all the next steps functionality that we built. As Pete said, it's really about bridging the gap between synthesis and action. Sales Coach to date has been awesome for managers to synthesize and to make recommendations, but the next step is to really get those managers to take action in the product. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. Then I'm going to show you the big steps that we've taken for Sales Coach to talk directly to the rep themselves, so the rep can self-manage, but if not self-manage, at least start to see the data and understanding to kind of warm themselves up for the conversations that the managers are going to have with them. And then three, we're going to walk through the pretty significant advance we've made to have Sales Coach help leaders look at themes across the organization and across teams. And so what I'm looking at here, I am in a staging and test environment to show you guys this demo, but I'm demoing here, I believe, a first level AE manager. And so what has been the case to date is that most of our users now, aren't touching a lot of the other functionality in Atrium. They're going directly to the Sales Coach, right? And they're just launching the Sales Coach for their team. So in this case, I'm Flint Hart, and this is my team of AEs. And so as Pete said, what the Sales Coach does is it takes all of the insights in Atrium, right? So for my team and for each of my reps, how they're doing against their goals, right? How they're doing against themselves over time, regardless of whether they have a goal, how they're doing against their peers, or how my team's doing against its peers. There's a lot of data here, right? And so the AI is great at synthesizing that data and saying, hey, manager, here are the shout outs for your team. Here's what's going really well, doing really well on ASP and on your meetings, right? Here are some top 3 items for coaching across your team. Here's a plan of action for each of those items. And here you need to keep an eye out on. Here's who's struggling, right, on the rep level. Here are those people you want to encourage. And hopefully you guys have seen this from our last AI day or in the product itself. And this is great from a synthesis perspective and from a recommended actions perspective. We want to bridge that gap. And now as a manager, I want to take action. And so I'm going to walk you through the first 3 actions that we have in the platform. We will obviously be adding more on top of that. But what is one thing that I as a manager might want to do? Well, it's Thursday. Maybe what I want to do is give everyone a high five as they're coming towards the end of the week. So I can go over here to my next steps, and I can say, I want to go send a high five email. And so what the AI is doing here is very similar to what the base Sales Coach report is doing. It's taking all of those insights across this team and across each of the reps, and it's generating a fairly short email that I can send out to my team to say, here's what's going really well across the team and for each individual. So you can see it's calling out for the team that we're doing a really good job on ASP, for new business opportunities. It's also calling out some individuals on the team, like Grunkle Stan here, or Dejan has a great conversion rate from qualified. Good job, Dejan, right? And now if I want to, I can go in and I could just send that email directly, but I'm less likely to do that. Maybe I'm going to go in here and I'm like, well, celebrating our success and achievements is a little stiff, so I'm going to just go like this, or I'm going to go down here, and this happens to me a lot. Let's keep redefining our limits and achieving new heights. That's how Pete talks. It's not how I talk. So I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to send off that email. I can save it. I can come back to it, but now I can send it. And what that did is that just went from me to anyone I wanted to on the team, right? Great. But my number one job as a manager is not only to send kudos, right? It's also to be constructive and help the team get better, right? So maybe what I actually want to do is I want to send a coaching email to my team. Very similar process here. We're using all of those insights that Atrium's feeding in to the LLM and the AI, doing all similar positive stuff, but also saying to the team, hey, despite these positives, there's some stuff we need to work on, right? In this case, our pipeline owned value and pipeline value set to close are trailing behind. So if I actually went over here, I think what we'd find is, yeah, there you go. So this team, new opportunities owned, going the wrong direction.
Oopsie.
Right? Let's see, the pipe set to close. Yeah. Where is it? There you go. Yeah, this team has less pipe closing this quarter than other teams. Maybe they haven't been managing the top and the middle of the funnel as well as they should be, right? So what am I going to do about that? I'm going to send this email. Maybe, again, I'm going to customize it. Maybe I'm going to add some anecdotes. Maybe I'm going to pull in some of these specific data points that the AI chose not to in this case. I can edit. I can send it off. So those are 2 really important actions that I want to be doing, right? I want to be giving high fives, but I also want to be coaching. I want to do that directly to my team in their inbox or coming soon into Slack. What else might I want to do? Well, obviously, I want to be thinking about what exact actions I'm going to take. And as Pete said, we now are generating these enablement plans. And what the enablement plan is doing is it's looking across the team and it's saying, what's the most pervasive pattern that is not great, that we want to improve on in the team. And in this case, it's pipe generation. Yep, that makes sense, right? That checks out. Like this, new opportunities owned going down for this team. Where's pipeline owned lower than other teams, pipeline by close date lower than other teams. Yeah, it turns out this team may have done well last quarter, but they're going to struggle this quarter or in Q+1 if they don't get on top of pipe generation. Right. So the sales enablement program is, making that suggestion. It's talking a little bit about why this is important. I think everyone on this call knows why pipe generation is important, but if it had picked some other metrics, maybe the rep is not clear why that matters. So it's going to tell them. And then it's going to talk about which reps we're going to focus on. Our friend Dejan is still kicking butt, so maybe they're the template for how to do a good job here. And then it's going to talk about different steps that we can do from an enablement perspective. So you can imagine me using this in a team meeting or like a specific enablement meeting to talk about, we're going to go through some prospecting techniques, we're going to do some pipe reviews, we're going to establish better KPIs, right? So that's some of the next step actions that I can take at a team level. But of course, I don't want to only be working at a team level. As a manager, I want to work rep by rep. Right? And so what you can do up here in this little carousel is I can now just rotate through my team. So Dejan's on my team. We've already talked about Dejan a little bit. And so Dejan's doing great. So I'm just going to skip them, right? No, I'm not going to skip them, right? I'm still going to send them a high five email, or maybe if you're me, I'm still going to try to find some edge out with Dejan to see what's going on. Okay, so we know Dejan's kicking butt on meetings. We know that Dejan's doing well on win rate. Okay, so Dejan's got fewer opportunities in the trailing 30 days. We knew that because the team does, and it turns out that Dejan does as well. And then also there's more untouched business ops. Okay, so that's interesting, right? So if I go down here, sure enough, like Dejan has 37 ops that they haven't touched in 30 days. So it's awesome that they're kicking butt right now, but maybe in forward 90 days, that's going to change because they're not on top of their pipe, right? And so as you can imagine, it's really easy for a lot of managers to give high fives. It's a little bit harder, right, to give that constructive feedback. And so what the sales coach is doing is giving you the data, embedding it in the email, and letting you start that conversation with data. So it's a lot easier for managers to do that. So again, I can edit this email if I want to. I could CC, someone else on the team, maybe a sales enablement person, et cetera, and then I can send off that email. Let's just keep going and look at a couple other examples here. So now I'm on to apparently Grand Councilwoman. So Grand Councilwoman, it looks like, is struggling a lot more than Dejan was. And so maybe on Grand Councilwoman, I'm really focused on how do I improve performance here, and maybe I can generate that enablement program. Unlike at the team level, right, where it was looking against the themes across the team, at the rep level, the AI is laser focused on Grand Councilwoman. What is the number one thing I think we should try to change right now and try to make better? And in this case, it's saying pipeline hygiene and management. So what is that looking at? Again, untouched business ops, stuck ops. So I'm guessing if we go down here, sure enough, stuck ops higher than peers, untouched ops higher than peers. And so as you know, just from the previous one, why is this important, Grand Councilwoman? And then what are the suggested steps that we're going to work on together as a team? You can kind of already see where this is going to go from a roadmap perspective for us on Sales Coach. Is I don't want to just copy this to clipboard. Coming soon, I'll be able to send this email off as well. That will come in the next week or two. And then do I want to now create streams for each of these enablement steps where I'm working in Atrium with a Grand Councilwoman on each of these steps? And let's just do one more because I think it's an important motion here as a manager that I'm going through each of my reps and I'm going to take action. So Grunkle Stan, I think we haven't looked at the coaching email here for someone that actually is struggling. It's very similar to what it was for that person that was really crushing it. But in this case, there's more going on. So we're still going to lead with positivity, right? The AI is going to help the manager realize that that's a really good idea, and then focusing out that the sales cycle is a bit longer here. And in this case, it's pretty interesting, right? Like this rep is struggling in POC, right? They have 63% more days in POC than their peers. So I know what I'm going to work with this rep on. And so I'm probably going to edit this email and talk a lot more about this specific content and maybe say, hey, let's get together in a one-on-one and let's walk through some of your deals that have been in POC and why they've taken so much longer than everyone else. But the key point here is the AI is giving me that lift as a manager who maybe I'm a first-time manager or maybe I'm not, but I'm just uncomfortable having that tough conversation. The goal here is to use this data and embed it in the email. So there's a nice starting point. So that's next steps for the team. And then I want to key on something I just said, which is that we're trying to help managers have those conversations that maybe are less comfortable, but are super, super important in the organization. One way that we can help with that and make that lower friction is to have that conversation already with the rep directly, right? So if I'm Grunkle Stan, sorry, I'm gonna giggle a little bit as I go through these names. Grunkle Stan can come into the platform as well, right? The reps are in Atrium, and much like the managers, they're skipping directly to the sales coach, right? And they're going in here, and now what the sales coach is doing is it's talking directly to this rep, right? And it's doing so in a similar fashion where it's starting with the good stuff. Hey, you're rocking the meetings. Thank you, AI. It's very colloquial. And what's going on? Your calendar's filled up, which is awesome. Your win rate's looking really good, right? And then it's going into those coaching topics. You improve your sales cycle time. Again, talking about that POC stage. In this case, the AI is doing a good job of pulling in the data. One side point that I'll make to everyone is if you don't like the way the AI wrote something, hit this regenerate button down here and it'll try again and try to pull in some more of that data. If you want a more data focused email, you can obviously also edit the emails if you want to. But improve your sales cycle time, enhance your pipeline management, boost those new business opportunities, talking about how to do more prospecting, right? And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's going to make the manager's job a lot easier if Atrium is talking directly to Stan and having that conversation ahead of time, getting them used to the data, see that data ahead of time. Look, in an ideal world, the rep self-corrects, obviously, but that maybe is not the most realistic thing. But now when this rep gets that email from their boss, right, they already know some of this data, they're used to it, they've been looking at it, and they're more open to working on it. So that's what's going on with talking to the rep directly. I think as Pete mentioned, I can do different versions of this if I want to as a rep. Like I'm like, hey, if I'm depressed about this, I can have a pep talk, right?
So pep
Which
talk.
is just going to be, yeah. I have feathers in my cap, people. So so I can get pumped up by the AI if I want to. So that's what we're doing with talking to the rep directly. On our roadmap, what y'all are going to see is a lot more investment in how the AI can help manage the rep directly, right? Like as an example, think about how are we going to work with Grunkle Stan on their goals midway through the week, midway through the month, midway through the quarter. You know, as a manager, what you're going is you're tapping people on the shoulder, you're giving high fives, you're giving encouragement, you're trying to push them a little bit more. That is something that with the data that Atrium has and the AI intelligence, we can start to automate, right, and really help streamline that process. So that's number two, that's talking to the reps directly. And the third thing I'll show you is we've tried to take a really big step forward in what our leaders can do with Sales Coach. Because everything we've talked about to date has been about individual reps and about teams with small number of reps. And if you're the CRO, it's not that you don't care about those reps, but you're really focused at the team level or at the theme level. And so now they can go in here and they can launch Sales Coach, and their Sales Coach options look a little different. They could jump into any team in the organization, right? They could do custom groups, but they can also look at like all the SDRs, or in this case, let's do all the sellers. And so what we've done is we've come much higher level, right? And we're doing analysis across all of those teams, right? What are the themes, what's working, what's not working, and presenting that up to the CRO. So on the left side, very similar, right? It's all the insights, but of course, as you know, Atrium does insights not just at the rep level, but the team level and the team of team levels all the way up. You can see for each team what's going on. Self anomalies, you versus these teams versus themselves historically, these teams versus other teams, right? Or these teams versus their goals. The right side, very similar to what we were doing from the rep, is synthesizing all that data and coming up with recommendations, but it's doing it at like the theme level, like across the board, across these 10 or so teams,
It's
right?
a lot of teams.
There's a lot of teams and a lot of stuck ops apparently. So we got Vincenzo, Bucky, Headless, man, Headless.
Good old headless team.
So stuck ops, longer date sales cycles elongating as
Mm.
a theme across the organization. Win rates are going down. Good news, right? Actually, this is actually quite interesting. Across this team, they are doing better
Mm.
with new opportunities. So when we were at that team level, right, that very specific team we called out, there was really this focus on, man, new pipeline, y'all. But at the org level, this is actually less of a problem, right? And we are seeing higher pipeline value. It's more about the org level, about these stuck opportunities, not moving things along fast enough, velocity issues. So themes to celebrate, recommended plans of action, teams to keep an eye on, teams to celebrate. And, you know, the CRO doesn't have to stay at this level, or the VP of sales. They can go in and say, okay, well, I see that Vincenzo has a problem. And so for each of these teams, they can dive in and run a team specific performance analysis. I think in this case, Vincenzo is still a second or third level manager, right? So, but it's going to rinse and repeat, right? The insights of that specific part of the org on the left, the shout outs, the coaching. In this case, Vincenzo has at least 3 teams, right, on the right. And if you want to, you can dive deeper and deeper. I can just keep on going. I can go into Bucky's team, and eventually I can go down to the individuals. But that's not what we expect a leader to do. What we expect a leader to do is look at those themes, look at the teams, and then queue up conversations with those teams. And if they want to, they can send those same high five coaching or generated enablement plan, or probably more likely, they're going to use this data, maybe generate that enablement plan and queue off a conversation with the manager of that team to see what they want to do next. So that's what I had to show you today. Hopefully you're as excited about it as we are. The sales coach has done a phenomenal job of synthesizing and making recommended actions, and that was very obvious in the user excitement we've seen and the usage we've seen. But really, if we're going to lock this into a daily pattern of behavior for all of our users, both the managers and the reps, and then hopefully the leaders, we really needed to bridge the gap towards action. And so that's the direction that we're going in. What you can expect to see next, you'll expect to see more actions, but you'll also expect to see more work done at the individual talking to the rep directly level. And then we're also experimenting with some cool stuff about not just managing the human, but also starting to tell you some insights about each deal, which is something that we can do a pretty neat job with the Atrium data.